Hey everyone, I'm here with Nick Disabato, guy founder of Draft and Draft Revise. Going to talk about some productized consulting stuff.
Yeah, hi, happy to be here, man. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
So yeah, Sabato, I run a company called Draft. It's at draft.nu. It's a small consultancy in Chicago. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Ooh, and see, I want to reach out to you because you just recently, when we recorded this, put up a new blog post about your 1 year anniversary of Draft Revise.
That's right.
So I was hoping to sort of talk about Draft Revise a bit. So I guess could you tell us a bit about this service that Draft offers?
Yeah, sure. So Draft Revise is a monthly A/B testing service. I run Visual Website Optimizer or any other A/B testing framework that you might be having on a monthly basis, and I create tests for you and write up reports, and I charge you $1,500 a month for the privilege. So hopefully, if you are a business of sufficient size and scale, that will pay back very quickly for you. Putting together small optimizations on pages has been proven to make people a lot of money. As an interaction designer, I also use it to kind of vet design details. I love improving people's sites and improving the UX and overall fit and finish of them. And if I'm not actually causing active harm to your site, then I consider that a win as far as an A/B test is concerned. And a lot of those happen to be inconclusive, which is good. It means it didn't make any change and didn't actually hurt conversions. So that is a very, very short explanation of what Draft Revise is. I have a lot of other things that I do in my business, but that's probably the most important one for this.
Yeah. So you mentioned you do like interaction design. How did you sort of get started with the A/B testing sort of side of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've spent about 1.5 years in my consultancy. I've been independent for about 2.5 years now. And I spent about 1.5 years doing one-off projects for people where you would come in and you would need me to do wireframes or site maps or content strategy for your site or your iOS app or whatever have you. And I would do that, and then we would shake hands, and I would get paid, and I would not get paid again because we're done. And I take a month off from client work every year. I call it my intermission, which I write about on my blog. And basically, when I was doing this intermission, I rewrote my book called Cadence and Slang. I put out a new issue of Design Quarterly that I was doing at the time and built an e-commerce site for myself. And then I ran out of things to do. And I had a 1.5 weeks left in the intermission. And I was like, well, I could go to the beach and do nothing, but I'm on this great tear and I have a lot of momentum and I want to do something. So I put together this offering where I decided, well, what can I do that would be a recurring retainer for my existing clients? Well, okay, what out of all of UX design can you turn into a retainer agreement really effectively and quickly that people will want to buy? Well, there's research. I'm not that great at research. I'm not the person you go to for research. That wouldn't work very well, though. I'm terrific at. That's my number one jam. But that you can't do wireframes as a service. That doesn't make it. It's a holistic package when you're putting together wireframes. There's going to be holes in anything you do if you don't do that. I could do IA or content strategy. Well, that only makes sense if you're generating an ungodly amount of content, and then why wouldn't you just hire a copywriter for it? Okay, well, we're kind of going through the process here. What happens at the end of the process? Analytics, assessment of what you're doing. Sorry, there's a train.
That's fine.
Analytics, assessment of what you're doing, that sort of stuff. And I thought, okay, well, what out of analytics could I do? I could run Google Analytics for somebody, but that wouldn't tell them anything they couldn't already read from Google Analytics. That's stupid. I decided, okay, well, what about A/B testing? And I thought, okay, now you're talking because I can bring my design insights to bear on a problem. And so that's something that only Nick Disabato can do, right? And it's also something that generates a lot of value for the client. People understand it. It was also kind of the new hotness a year ago, and now everybody's doing it. So I get to capitalize on a trend. I get to do something that people will pay for, and I get to have stable income for the first time in my independent career.
Oh, very nice.
Pretty solid right there, right? So I wrote a marketing page for it. I wrote the marketing page before I had anything together. I didn't have terms and conditions together yet. I didn't have an account on Visual Website Optimizer yet. I had no plan at all for this. And I put together a marketing page and launched it the day that I got back from my intermission. And I buried it because the day after I launched a Kickstarter for the second edition of my book, I was thinking Draft Revised is going to come out and it's just going to sit there and maybe one person will sign up. Nothing's going to come of it. And so that was the Monday. Tuesday, I launched my Kickstarter. 2 hours later, Brendan Dunn blogged about it on Freelancers Weekly. And that Thursday, Patrick McKenzie wrote like a 5,000 saying it was one of the best marketing pages he had ever seen, which is terrifying because this guy's like the grand vizier of marketing pages. And my server crashed, and I filled up all of my clients within 1 week. And we've been off to the races since, man. It's been basically just full up ever since. So
nice. So what kind of companies did you find that were reaching out to you to sort of take advantage of the service?
Yeah, so I pitched this to SaaS businesses initially. The marketing page was written and has been written with them in mind. I figured they would be a solid, likely candidate to pay for this. They're typically B2B if they're bootstrapped and successful at all. So I put that together with those in mind. They remain the plurality of my customers. There's more of them than anybody else, but I have e-commerce sites coming to me frequently. I work for a tech blog. I work for one-off software businesses, like they just sell software downloads, and all those. Yeah, those are the most common that I typically get. Yeah.
Very cool. So there's something I've always wondered. It seems like for A/B testing to be effective, it sort of only works for businesses at a certain scale. So I guess I'm sort of wondering, like, how did you get into it? Like, I mean, maybe it's me personally. I have some smaller clients that I don't think A/B testing would be a lot of value. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I love working with small teams, but that doesn't mean they're not at scale, right? So, to your point, just for audience's edification, A/B testing really only works when you can get statistical significance on findings. And that means you have to be getting enough hits and enough goal completions for whatever definition of goal you have. Buying a product, signing up, converting from a trial, whatever you need. You need to have enough of those that you can spread it among 2, 4, 8 variations of a page and understand, okay, there is a relationship that's happening here. If you're getting 300 hits a month, those hits might be very high value. You might be doing high-touch services or, selling $3,000 software or whatever have you. You're still not going to get enough goal completions. You're going to know there's a difference. If, like, version A had 5 signups and version B had 7 signups, that doesn't tell you very much because it's only a difference of 2, and that can be swayed in either direction. So to your point, I love working. I vastly prefer working with smaller teams. If you are from the enterprise, we can work well together if you are kind of cordoned off as a portion of it. If there are 150 stakeholders involved in your .com, probably less so. You might want to hire internally in that situation as well. And I can advise you, sure. I write up reports for people all the time. I backed out a service called Revise Express where I just do a one-off teardown, and I do that on a monthly basis. But an ongoing engagement, you should be hiring internally for it, and I can teach them. But beyond that, I don't think it would be a terribly good fit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So how would you say your career has changed over the past year since you've started doing Draft Revise?
Rather a lot. I basically went from one-off engagements being the bread and butter of draft to them being a thing I take whenever I feel like it. And I really don't rainmake for consulting gigs anymore. You have to come in the door and be a good fit, and I have to like you. Now, one funny consequence of all this is I haven't taken too many fewer clients over the course of this year. I mean, we're only halfway through, so maybe nobody knocks on my door for the rest of the entire calendar year, but, that's another knock on wood scenario. But I take about 6 clients a year. I don't take very many, and I do larger projects with them. And I've already gotten 3. And so I've done that. but it's gravy. It's just, I don't need that money to live. Draft Revise and Revise Express combined make way more than my monthly expenses to support my salary, my business's needs, my rent, everything. Everything that I need to live as a human being in Chicago doing what I do is covered by Draft Revise. So I can just, I can take a vacation if I end up taking consulting engagement, or go to a conference, or buy something nice for my wife. I don't know. So, yeah.
So about how much time do you spend, how much of your month is taken up doing your recurring engagements?
About 15 hours.
Oh, wow. So 15 hours a month. And
15 to 20 if there's a lot of needs, yeah.
So 15 to 20.
Right.
And
I'm sorry?
So I was like 15 to 20 a month and you're covered?
Yeah, pretty much.
So that sounds pretty awesome.
It is really awesome. I mean, I spend the rest of my time writing. Revise Express is more time than that. I'm just saying, just for Draft Revise, it's about 15 to 20 hours a month. Mm. And that's for writing the reports and putting together tests. If it's a more ambitious test, it'll take more time. I mean, sometimes it gets up to like 30 hours a month, but never. Like, they're usually for clients that I like a lot. Yeah. And we already have an existing relationship. Like, if you've been with me for 5 months, like, probably you've gotten past the initial 3-month payment. We know how we work together by that point, and we want to try stuff that's more ambitious. But usually it's about 20 hours a month, and the rest of the time I spend, I write the world's most off-topic and god-awful newsletter, and I write Revise Express reports, and I put together books. I'm working on a couple right now. Biz dev stuff.
Very cool. On the end of the newsletter, the story about that sandwich in Italy was awesome. So.
So my business, my newsletter contains almost no business value. You will get nothing out of it as a person. But I write 1,600 words about a sandwich.
There you go.
But yeah. Anyway, that's kind of my time commitment for Draft Revise now, and it took a lot of time to get to the point where I could do it in 20 hours a month. Like, there was a long time where I was doing it full time, and it was stressful and demanding, and now I can put together an A/B test in my sleep. So
sweet. So I guess that sort of leads to my next question. Like, you said, you didn't have a whole lot prepared when you started. What do you think were some of the like missteps you made along the way, and how have you corrected?
All of them. Here are the most infamous ones. Accidentally ballyhooed a money-back guarantee right next to the primary call to action for a client without understanding that they did not offer a money-back guarantee, but they offered a trial. They were not happy. Somebody signed up and politely asked me for my terms and conditions. Not only had I not written terms and conditions, but my lawyer decided to join a gigantic big law practice the week before, and I did not have a lawyer at the time. So I had to find a lawyer, meet a lawyer, shake hands with a lawyer, and then hope to God that she was going to put together terms and conditions for me very, very quickly. I didn't have a VWO account together, and I didn't sign up for their agency plan. I set up a lot of individual plans, and locking out and back in was a pain. Dealing with billing was a pain. Dealing with accounting was a pain. That pain persisted for 5 months, at which point they couldn't consolidate them, and I had to sign up for a separate account, and then I had to roll all of my clients onto that, which was just way more time and effort than I would need. The best thing that I got right was writing a marketing page beforehand. I launched with a marketing page and handled absolutely no other logistics, which I'm sure just contributed to my having a gigantic panic attack for the first 2 months that I was doing this, because I wasn't making myself comfortable, right? I wasn't putting myself in a position where I was able to work at my best. And when I'm getting sidelined by having to hire a lawyer while I'm supposed to be doing A/B tests for people, not a good look, and not a good first impression. So, some advice for people out there: get every duck in a row before you even consider doing anything.
Yep.
So.
All right, sounds good. So, are there any other pieces of advice you would give people if they want to try to do some similar, service as a product or work out recurring revenue with their clients?
I mentioned doing the marketing page first. I think that makes sense. The marketing page should describe the terms and handle customer objections as much as humanly possible. So thinking about who's coming in doing this. Okay, a SaaS business. What problems are they going to have with my service, and what questions are they going to have, and in what order? And that determines the layout and format of your marketing page. I typically write giant bricks of text. Other people work better on doing it in different ways, talking about screenshots. Show your work. I showed a report from Draft, from Draft Revise that I wrote for an example client. I think I even wrote for myself. And that had like fancy graphs and stuff in it. I put all of that stuff together. Make sure you have your Stripe backend service together correctly so that you can actually put them on a subscription. I wrote my own for Stripe. I need to open source it at some point. Recognize that onboarding is going to be more effort than you necessarily believe. You need to come out swinging with a really good first impression, and you need to move heaven and earth to show that you're going to deliver value for these people. You can relax a little bit after like month 3 or so, but in that beginning, they're going to wonder how you work and how they work with you, and setting expectations around all that is just tremendously important. Kind of more broadly, one thing that I learned is it's still a consulting engagement, and the same rules of expectation setting and presentation and all that, they apply for you just as well. And you're going to want to bring those skills to bear when you're putting this stuff together. I think me having a consulting background helped me a great deal in framing Draft Revise engagements, putting together reports, coming off like I look authoritative, all of those things. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you said you've been doing this for about, a little over 2 years now?
That's right.
Did you have any sort of consulting experience beforehand, or what were you doing before Draft?
So the long story was I was an HTML developer, just front-end stuff for between 2006 and 2009, late 2009. I quit that to start doing UX stuff in November of 2009, went independent for about 10 months. It was an unfettered disaster, and I was doing consulting without realizing I was doing consulting. I'm going to use the dread F word here. I was freelance, and I was more of a freelancer than a consultant. And then I got hired, because I kind of bailed from being a freelancer. I got hired to lead a UX practice at a small ad agency in the city. I didn't like the work. I loved the people. It went under. I got laid off, and then I went to a larger consultancy, and they called themselves a consultancy. They were an arm of Deloitte for a number of years. They're called Round Arch. Now they're called Isobar because they got bought. And I left there after 15 months to go independent, and at that point, I knew what I was doing. And then I've been independent for the past 2.5 years. That's the Reader's Digest edition. One thing I would recommend to people is if you're in college and listening to this, go to an agency before you go independent. If you don't believe you have the right presentation skills and you don't believe you're client-facing enough, get client-facing for at least a year and then go independent. I always forget people aren't client-facing at agencies sometimes, and that thought of that just terrifies me. So you need to get past that.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, I think he even said one of your clients, I think Patrick McKenzie wrote about that in his blog, that if you want to do a consultancy or startup, you might as well just go have someone pay you to get experience for 2 years so you can be better and have a bit of a war chest.
Yeah.
And then give it a shot.
Yeah, and another kind of point around that is I live in Chicago. My rent is $600 a month. I live in the hipster neighborhood where everybody wants to live. So if you're listening to this in New York or the Bay Area or something like that, keep in mind that when you go independent, you're going to want to keep your expenses down. One way to do that is to move. I'm not saying move to Chicago because you'll drive my rent up, but move someplace where the rent is more sane and reasonable.
Yes, it is. Actually, I live here in Athens, Georgia. It's a bit of a startup thing, and it's super cheap college town. At least we're not far from Atlanta if we need to go talk to bigger businesses and things like that.
Yeah. The greater MailChimp metropolitan area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Athens almost certainly has a lower cost of living, even though it's a college town, right? There's parts of town that aren't by the university. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's a pretty good place to live too.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, good. So yeah, I guess if the people want to learn some more about you, where could they find out about you?
Yeah, sure. So I go by Nick D on the internet and elsewhere. My mom calls me Nick D, so you can too. I'm at nickd.org. My Twitter handle is Nick D. You can get a sense of consistency from all that. If you go to Draft, it's at draft.nu. And /revise on that if you want to look at Draft Revise, but it's linked pretty prominently. And yeah, if you ever want to email me or talk to me about consulting stuff, I love hearing from folks, and you can get at me at nickd.org. So, yeah.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks again for taking time out of your schedule to chat with me.
All right, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Cool. All right, and yeah, thank you very much.
All right, bye.
Bye.